Hello and welcome to My Bookkeeping Hat. As an entrepreneur, you have many hats to wear and skills to master. Today, we welcome Ellen Gross from Community Futures North Caribou office here in Quesnel. Ellen brings over 20 years of bookkeeping experience, 10 years banking experience to the table. As a self-employed bookkeeper, Ellen supported small and medium businesses from industries throughout Northern BC. For the past 15 years, Ellen has created curriculum for and taught bookkeeping courses to various groups and individuals. Ellen is an expert in Sage and Excel. Community Futures Peace in the Yard has utilized Ellen's skills and expertise for the self-employment program. And currently, Ellen is the regional business liaison for Community Futures North Caribou and has been supporting small businesses with provincial and federal funding programs and business reviews. Whew. Hello, Ellen.
Hi, it's great to be here for the My Bookkeeping Hat series.
Excellent. 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 So today we're going to be talking about the things a business owner needs to consider before hanging their "We are hiring" sign. So what is the first thing a business owner should do?
The first thing you need to do is develop a job description so you know how to hire the person. So decide what you want. In this case, we're going to use a bookkeeper. So the concept can apply to other positions as well. So decide what you want your bookkeeper to do, okay? And make it a specific list. Don't just, I want a bookkeeper to do the books, right? Because that has a lot of wiggle room as to what skills do you want this person to have, right? And I'm kind of going to work through some examples on what you should look for and how we can go about setting this up. So when I'm talking about making it a specific list, so for example, do you want your bookkeeper to do accounts payable and accounts receivable and answer the phone? Do you want your bookkeeper to do payroll and bank reconciliations? Okay, do you want your bookkeeper to do accounts payable, accounts receivable, answer the phone, and do payroll? So there's a really different skill set for each one of those. So you need to specifically decide what you want your bookkeeper to do. So then when you are either filing the notice, the for hire, right?
Mhm.
Notice, you can put specifics so that the bookkeepers understand what you're looking for. You have full service bookkeepers who do everything for the full accounting cycle, okay? Some of them are trained in taxes as well and can do income taxes, and some of them aren't. And some of them are just partial. So they may be very familiar with accounts receivable. They may be very familiar with accounts payable. They may be very familiar with payroll, right? Because they've specialized in that area. But those skills are very different for each one of those. You will have specific things in your office that you will need done. So for example, now a lot of people are working from home. If you're hiring a bookkeeper, can your bookkeeper work from home and do what you need her to do, or him?
Fair.
Or do they need to come into the office? So if answering the phone is one of the jobs you would like your bookkeeper to do, they may have to come into the office in order to do that, right? Now, electronic or technology has gotten to the point where you can have a phone answered at another location as well, right?
Oh, right, for sure.
So
People can use a VoIP system or something like that. Yeah.
exactly, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, but you need to outline those specific tasks so that you know and the person that you're hiring knows that they are required to work at your place of business, or they are required to work at home, or they have a choice. I really need you in the office on Mondays because of whatever your reason is. However, on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you can choose whether you want to work in the office or whether you want to work from your home, right? That makes a big difference because some people do not want to work at home and some people do not want to work in an office location. And some people like both because they don't want to get stuck at home. If they, for example, one thing is if you don't have a whole lot of interaction with other people when you're working at home. So if they need the interaction, they need to stay in the circle, then they will prefer at least part-time working at your business location. So that is, and as an employer, that's something to consider too. If you have someone who only wants to work at your office, if that works for you, that's fine. If you have someone who only wants to work from home, if that works for you, that's fine too. But if you need somebody in the office and you're hiring somebody who only wants to work from home, that's not going to work.
Right.
Okay. So you need to, that's why we need those specific job duties laid out so that you can designate, okay, this specific duty you can only do from the office. So, or maybe all of these duties can only be done from the office. So this is definitely, you will have to work at my place of business, right? Another consideration, or the next step, I guess, we go to once you've outlined the jobs that you need this person to do, you will need to determine the knowledge and the skills that you need the person to have in order to be able to do these job duties. Now, another consideration is, are you willing to train for some of these job duties? So for example, answering the phone, which is not necessarily a normal bookkeeper duty, but I know a lot of times it kind of just goes with the position. So answering the phone, have you ever answered the phone before? Well, no, I haven't, but I have extensive bookkeeping knowledge. So maybe that's a fair trade-off. Well, I can teach you how to answer the phone as long as you have the bookkeeping knowledge, right? So you have to think about how much time that you want to invest in training, and then look at the skills that are available and which ones do they need to come with and which ones would you be able to train. So, and there's different skills and knowledge for depending on the duties that you set out. So I'm going to do kind of a comparison for you. So we're going to look at, for example, you want somebody to just do the accounts payable, the accounts receivable, and answer the phone. So, and this is just a sample list because everybody is going to be different, because every employer has different needs and requirements.
Right. That makes sense.
And so does every business, right? So you can take two identical businesses that are across town from each other, and their office procedures and their information requirements can be totally different from each other, right? So these are just ideas, or concepts is a better word to use. So these are just concepts to look at when you're creating your job description. So if you're going to hire someone for accounts payable, accounts receivable, and to answer the phone, a list of skills and knowledge that they may need are, they will need accounts payable and accounts receivable knowledge. So understand what the terminology means, understand how it works, and understand how you post that in a program, right? They will need sales tax knowledge, because when you're dealing with customers and selling items, you have to understand how the sales tax is applied to those items. So if there's multiple rates, what rates belong to each items? Is it a provincial sales tax or a federal sales tax? Is what they're purchasing from the business tax exempt, maybe, right? So that's a legislative knowledge thing that you need to understand when you're dealing with those two items. You will need communication skills. You will need to ask customers questions. You'll need to ask vendors questions, and you will need to ask the business owner questions. And the business owner will be asking the bookkeeper questions, and that needs to be answered in a way that the business owner can understand. So that's communication. So when you speak to each other, do you totally understand what the other person is saying, right? You'll need organization skills. Everything is on a timing. So your accounts payable have to be paid by a certain date, or you get dinged late charges. Your customers need to send you any money they owe you by a certain date, or there's consequences. Whether you decide to charge interest or late charges, that's a individual company policy. But when they don't pay you, there will be consequences of some sort, because you can't do business if your customers don't pay you, right?
Right.
If they're going to answer the phone, they will need multi-line phone skills, for example, right? So if you can train them on how to use a phone, that's not a big deal. But if you hire someone who's never used a multi-line phone system and you don't have the time to train them, the going could get kind of rough for a while before things get straightened out, right? So that's,
Yeah,
you know,
that's very, very fair. And you can see that happening. Yeah.
oh, I have seen that happen. Yes,
For sure.
it can get kind of tense. And another
Mhm.
thing, if your bookkeeper is going to be speaking to your customers, make sure they have people skills. So, for example, a major one is if I'm answering the phone and a customer phones me who is angry about something, am I able to handle that? Or do I get totally frustrated or flustered or whatever? Do I start yelling back at the customer? Okay. Or am I able to deal with it and at least hold it to an even keel until I can either let the business owner speak to the customer or find someone who deals with that specific item to deal with this customer appropriately, right?
Yeah.
Because the worst thing you can have is if I pick up the phone and somebody's angry and they let go angry words at me and I send angry words back at them, that is really bad customer relations, right? So
Yeah.
you can see there's a lot of things that start getting involved depending on the duties that you have, right?
I would
And
also think that it would be sorry to interrupt, but it would be
no,
super
all good.
important for them to really have a good understanding of your business and the services or products that you provide if they're answering the phone to be, if a customer or a client calls and says, oh, I see this is, and they have no idea what that is, that will send a very negative message, I guess, an
That's and
unorganized
exactly.
message. So
That's
really
right.
making sure, yeah, that makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense. And that would be a really important for sure.
It would be because if you phone a business and say, "Oh, hi, I'm just wondering about this ad I saw," right? And the person goes, "Oh, I don't know anything about that." You're immediately like, "Whoa, so what kind of service am I going to get here?" Right? So you need to clarify how the person answers the phone. So if you're just like, "Good afternoon, this is Joe's service," right? How can I help you? Oh, well, I was looking at your ad and I just had some questions about it. Okay, perfect. Just a moment. I'm going to put you through to Joe. Right? Okay, if that's what you want your person to do, be very clear. That's how I want you to do it. You're not required to answer customer questions. Just forward the phone to me or to Jane or to whoever's handling the stuff, right? But if you want your bookkeeper to actually answer those questions, then you will need to train them in your products and services and how your business does business, right? So that's a very good point, and that's one that a lot of people will miss. So answering the phone, right, has
Mhm.
requirements of its own. So, and that's something that you need to think about.
For
And
sure.
you also need to think about um, people skills, so interoffice people skills. So yes, I'm a bookkeeper that you've just hired, and yes, I'm shuffled into my office, but I still have to interact with customers that come in the business, with employees that work there with you, right?
Mm.
So you want someone who can interact in a pleasant manner, right? So that we all get along and it just goes way more smoothly, right?
Right.
You also want someone with attention to detail. So anytime you are hiring someone to work with your numbers, so accounts payable, accounts receivable, you want them to have a must have is attention to detail. So when I am, for example, reconciling the bank, let's say, and I come across an entry for a customer that is an odd amount. I'm okay, it's $100 even. So how many times when you purchase something is it $100 even, right? So, oh, I think maybe I should look at that. So attention to detail,
Mhm.
that looks funny. I need to look at it. And they go research it and go, oh, oops. This sale got put through without charging taxes to this person. So we need to do a correcting entry to make sure that our books are correct and that if you get audited, it's not going to cause any problems to the business, right? So that comes in very handy anytime someone is working with numbers. So another thing that you should look at is you're able to adhere to deadlines. That sounds like it's maybe not something that you need to list on your job description. we'll go as we get towards the end. Some of this will make a little more sense as to why you put it in your job description. Not everybody is able to work well to deadlines. Okay, it's like, yeah, I'll get it done when I get it done. But as a business, those deadlines mean something, and they can cost you quite a bit if you start missing deadlines on a regular basis, especially with CRA. So you don't want to miss those deadlines. You don't want to miss deadlines with your vendors either, because that puts the cost of your product or service up. So, you know, what you're charging for your product or service has not incorporated the fact that, oh, I'm going to make late payments all the time, right? So that's just would be an extra cost of the business if they're not able to work to deadlines, right?
Right. And that could get quite costly, especially when you're thinking about GST and those types of things as well. You could really get hit hard with those. Yeah.
The federal government has an escalating late payment penalty now. So the first time you're late, it's 10%. The second time, it's 20%. So yeah, and that's the penalty. That's not the interest on top of that for every day that you're late. So yeah, that can get very steep very quickly, right? And individual, even your vendors, they will say what they charge for overdue amounts on their statement or their invoices generally. But if you look at even 2%, right? If you're consistently late all the time, that 2% added to your product is quite an extra expense. You're not recouping in your sales price, right? So if you took a 2% hit on your gross profit right across the board, that's a pretty big hit to take, right? And it's not it's totally avoidable. So, and that's a working to deadline. So these are the payables. This is when they're due. This means I have to have them reconciled and my checks out by this date, right? So that's part of that working to deadline too. Another thing to think about when you are doing your job description is if they're going to do accounts payable and accounts receivable, what program are they working with? So you need to say that. So if they're working with Sage, you need to say must have experience working with Sage if you don't want to train them. If you do want to train them, you can say, you know, some experience with Sage or willing to train on accounting program. So not everybody has the same accounting program, and not everybody has experience in every single accounting program there is out there, because there's hundreds. But again, it comes back to do you have time to train for this? Or is this, no, I use Sage and you have to know how to use Sage because I don't have time to train you in it. Okay. And that's also something when we get into the interview in the next bookkeeping hat, we're going to look at methods of interviewing. So how do you test for skills? So if you say, no, you have to have Sage knowledge, then we need to develop a skills test for that because you've decided that you don't have time to train them, right? So that will be something that we develop on there. So then when you are, so that's kind of what you would need if you're going to hire someone for accounts payable, accounts receivable, and answering the phone. Now, let's say that you wanted to hire a bookkeeper for accounts receivable, accounts payable, answering the phone, and the payroll. They would need all the stuff we just talked about, plus they need payroll knowledge. Okay, so payroll knowledge encompasses employment standards requirements, CRA deduction rules, CRA filing deadlines and filing rules, problem solving skills, because they're going to be dealing with your employees. So your employees are going to file time slips and there's going to be questions on those, right? So you are showing that you worked on, I don't know, December the 13th, but that was a Saturday and we're not open on December the 13th. So, you know, do you just approach the employee and say, yeah, you screwed up, so I'm not paying you for this day? Or do you come in and say, I have a time sheet, I just wanted to check with you because, you know, sometimes something comes into the business that if I'm just the bookkeeper, I don't talk to everybody all the time, right? So we had a really special job for a really good customer that happened to we had to do it on a Saturday, right? So that's why I worked on a Saturday. perfect. Okay, that's all I needed to know, right? Or, oh, oops, no, it was just an error, and I meant to write the 18th, and for some reason it looks like, right? But so we don't know, but it's the
Right.
approach and how you, if I go ask somebody. So if I just go, yeah, you screwed up, I'm not paying you for that. That's stupid. Not so good, right?
No, definitely not.
And they need advanced communication skills. Employees will come and ask, please explain why I did not get paid for the stat, for vacation pay, for those hours. That falls back on your understanding of the employment standards rules
Right.
and how well you can explain that to the employee who's asking. So those are more advanced communication skills than just dealing with accounts payable and accounts receivable. It doesn't get into quite so much legislation. The most you'll have there is the sales tax. So someone will say, well, why are you charging me sales tax on this when I don't even live in this province, right? For example. And it's like, oh, well, because, you're purchasing it here, and,
Yeah.
if you're purchasing it here, we have to charge a sales tax, right?
Right.
If you want me to ship it to wherever you live, I can ship it there, but we'll have to charge you the shipping costs, right? But then I don't have to charge you the provincial sales tax, right? Sometimes, okay, it depends. Those rules get too complicated, so we're not going there.
That's very fair. That's
But
very fair.
that's the only explanation you will have to do. Whereas employment standards rules can get fairly complicated,
Right.
and you're always being asked to explain why you did something on a paycheck or why you did not do something on a paycheck. So you need more advanced communication skills when you're dealing with payroll than you do when you're dealing with the other. So you can kind of see the difference that just one item in a
Mhm.
job description, what a difference it makes in the skills and the knowledge that you need to be able to do actually do that job appropriately.
Right. So just out of curiosity, you've mentioned some really great things there, like the tax knowledge, and they need payroll knowledge. They need, and really great info. Is there some formal training or something that they would put on their resume that would show you they do have that experience or they do have that knowledge? Like, is there a certificate they can earn or something like
Um,
that?
there's a lot of different ways to get different certificates. So the Canadian Payroll Association does a specific payroll certificate.
Okay.
They take you through the whole realm of payroll, and they will issue you a certificate once you've completed their courses. It is excellent,
Mm.
and it will give you exactly where this person has been trained within payroll, right? So that's an excellent
Mhm.
way to check out if someone is knowledgeable in payroll. If they can
Nice.
present you with that CPA certificate, then you know what their level of learning is in payroll. Um, there are different college programs that will give you certificates in different um, levels of bookkeeping, I guess, and office
Mhm.
administration. They're
Mhm.
usually combined with an office administration certificate in a lot of them.
Right.
A lot of bookkeeping is experience. So if someone has been, and different bookkeepers, um, different bookkeepers have different levels of what they can do. So for
Mhm.
example, if I have always worked as an accounts payable clerk, that's my thing, right? So if I have 20 years accounts payable experience, that's I should know what I'm doing with accounts payable. I should, understand the concept behind it, understand the bookkeeping behind it, and how it works in the accounting software, right? I've been doing it long enough. I'm well acquainted for it. I know how to approach vendors. I know what errors to look for, that type of thing, right?
Right.
But if you say, okay, well, you can do my payroll too, that's different. Okay, that's a different
Mm.
skill set. That's a different
Mhm.
knowledge set. So
Right.
that's why really think of specifically of the duties that you would like your bookkeeper to do. I mean, I've had jobs where I've walked in as a bookkeeper and like, oh, well, you can build my website. It's like, I don't think you're going to be happy with the website I build because that's
Yeah.
not really my thing.
That's fair. Don't ask me to do your books. I won't ask you to build a website.
exactly. It's like,
That's
yeah,
very
it's kind
fair.
of weird. So, but
Yeah,
that's why you,
excellent.
again, and back to, and I know I'm harping on the specific duties that you want, but there's a big difference on some of these duties as to what skills and knowledge you will require the person to have, right?
Yeah,
So yeah, just be
awesome.
careful with that. So,
That makes
and
perfect sense.
on another note, there's other qualities that you may want just on a general um, um, level. So, for example, depending on the office you work in, you may need to say you must wear appropriate safety clothing to work,
Mm.
right? It depends on the area that you're working in. It depends like what the business does. They may have, and that may come down to WCB requirements, right? That's maybe not
Right,
be a company
right,
thing, but
for sure.
WCB requirements. So if you have a bookkeeper who's going to be working on site, that's something you need to consider, and you need to put in the job description. Okay. Something else is, I was looking at my list I have. So a choice whether they can work for home or office, we kind of touch base on that a little bit.
Yep.
That's kind of a lot of the conversation right now in the world is, yeah, maybe I don't want to have to go to the office every day, right? So if you can allow them a choice, at least part time, to work from home sometimes and in the office, that might be a real benefit to them. So that would help you find a bookkeeper to
Mhm.
work in that position,
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
Self-motivated and a positive attitude. If you look at the job descriptions, you will notice that is in a lot of the job descriptions that are filed for different positions, different industries, right? So the point behind that is if you are self-motivated, I don't have to hang over your shoulder all the time to make sure that you get stuff done. You understand what needs to be done and you understand the job and you just move forward and do the job and everything rolls along fine, right? And a
Mhm.
positive attitude is like, oh, okay, yeah, yeah, today is not my best day, and it's not three other people's in the office's best day either. But you know what? Tomorrow's a new day, so it's all good. We'll get through
Right.
this day. It's all fine. So I'm going to do my job to the best of my abilities. I will help you to the best of my abilities, even though I'm feeling crappy. But we're not going to pass that on to each other. So, and if your whole office has that um, work skill, it really changes the energy level in your office.
Right.
So, and that's something to be aware of because if you have a very good office energy, it only takes one person to change that positive energy into negative energy. So, and I have worked in some offices like that, and I
Mhm.
have seen changes both from the positive energy moved to negative and from negative moved to positive. And it
Right.
does make a difference.
Yeah.
So, not related specifically to this job, but related to overall the staff that you hire, right? Because you generally have your business generally builds its own energy. So if you have a good team and you're working together and everybody's on the same page, which that's really good communication skills, okay, and
Yep.
really good problem solving skills,
Right.
then that energy it's fun to work in, right? It's very
Yeah.
creative. It
It's
accomplishes a
contagious.
lot. Everybody feels like they are very satisfied doing their job. So
Mhm.
I can't stress enough how much that will help you put out a quality product or service.
Right.
And last of all, any new employee, you need to do a welcome to the club letter. And all that is once you've gone through the whole hiring process, you have a letter that says, congratulations, we have chosen you to fulfill the position of bookkeeper in this case, right?
Mhm.
Your start date will be, your wage rate will be, your vacation rate will be, your probationary period will be. I highly
Mhm.
recommend you put all new employees on an absolute minimum 3-month probationary period. Um, in a bookkeeper's case, you will have a confidentiality clause in there that says this is a confidential position. You will not allow any of our private financial information to be leaked outside of the office.
Right. That makes perfect sense to me. Yeah.
And yeah, and if you do, that's grounds for immediate dismissal, and put that right in that welcome to the club letter, because they sign it. So you both sign it when it's presented. It serves as a reminder to the verbal conversations you've had with this person. Okay, this is your start date, this is your wage rate, this is your vacation rate. And they get to reread it and say, oh, no, remember, we discussed I'm going to have a 6% vacation pay instead of a 4% vacation pay. And you can go, oh, right, I forgot about that conversation, right? You can fix the letter, it's fine. Or they can say, oh, wait a minute, we discussed I'm going to get 10 weeks of vacation per year, not 2. And that one I don't remember, right? So things like that get clarified right at the start. And you can always bring it back and say, you know, for example, let's say 3 months in, they say, hey, we discussed my vacation rate. It should be 6%, not 4. No, here's your welcome to the club letter. And so that has stated your vacation rate as is. So very important to save, a lot of miscommunications later on with employees.
Perfect.
And it builds the thing. As an employer, you should have all of your stuff in writing anyway. And when you have all of the good things are in writing, as well as, you know, when it comes time to employee reviews, they're not always that good. So, but it just becomes a habit of how you deal with it. Right. So that's all I have for this right now. So excellent. Back to you, Elizabeth.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I just wanted to point one little thing out, that is the skills that they come with, and whether they are doing payroll or your accounts receivable, accounts payable, whatever. I can only imagine that would apply to whether you're hiring an employee or a contractor. So if you're not actually hiring somebody into your office, but you want hiring a bookkeeper per se, you still want to really focus on those skill set that they're bringing to the table.
You still basically want the same skill set, regardless if they're self-employed or they're an employee. Yeah.
Awesome.
Because even if they're self-employed, yes, okay, they may be doing more of the work from home. They're still going to come into the office for whatever. If they're doing payroll, they're still going to connect with your employees. They will still have the same questions and the same interactions with people for payroll, regardless of whether they're doing it in your office or whether they're doing it at home.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much, Ellen. Those are some really great tips. I love those practical ideas of making sure you've got all your poop in a group, I guess. Sorry. So we have included an infographic for you to download for your records with these things to consider when hiring a bookkeeper. Our next session will explore interview strategies and skill testing options. So thanks so much. Have a great day.
Bye. Have a good day.